Hey guys, how's it going? Ghostly Rich here today, and as you can see, Twin Turbo project's going good, but this cooler needs to just get out of here. I don't like how it's positioned. I haven't been a big fan of it. From factory, it lies flat. So just like we repositioned the oil cooler, we're actually going to reposition the tranny cooler. I've had really good luck with this cooler, so I bought another one. Bought some AN lines. I was doing some measuring. These are 1/2 inch lines, so my AN8 lines should be able, if I cut them pretty much where these markings are, should be able to slide on about that much AN line and then use some EFI clamps and clamp it onto here and adapt it to AN fittings. Should be awesome. Now, I want to mount it. I was thinking in the back here, but then I was like, well, why do that? I mean, if you look, this is on rubber grommets for isolation. It should be perfect. Why go ahead and mess around with this bracket? If I mounted the cooler right underneath here, it'd be way too, I'd be scared of breaking the fittings off. Anyways, so these are the old tranny cooler pieces here. I'm just slowly working them out because they used to mount into here. I'm gonna pull this off, and as you can see, I've measured it. It'll actually bolt up to here, come out, and I should be able to mount the secondary cooler right off of this same bracket, and it uses a 1/4 thread. I'll show you what it looks like. I'm gonna just mount it up. If that works, I will throw fluid in the cooler, and I'll just simply put it here, modify this a bit, and then we'll make some hoses. Last thing I need to do is modify right here and right here, so that way I can get that secondary bolt, because then this bracket won't shift side to side. It would be perfect. And I actually, like I said, it just needs to be modified just a tiny bit, and then look at that. It won't protrude past the front. And again, I'll just bring these hoses, and then I can use some nice hose clamps and stuff and kind of run them together. And that, I think, will look a heck of a lot nicer. Now, before somebody says to me, well, Richard, what about impeding the coolness getting to the intercooler? Well, to tell you the truth, if you look through here, I don't know if you'll see it, see all the silver in between? That's because the air passes through these coolers pretty darn easy. And these little tanks are the only thing that are going to be blocking any airflow. There's a lot of airflow that comes from the bottom too, and if I really want to, later on I can make a custom skid plate that has a little bit of a scoop, and guess what? Air goes past and then swoops up. So there's some options, but I do like this. Maybe later on I'll actually upgrade the oil cooler to the same size. Why not, right? And then we'll have a bit more rows. And there it is. As you can see, completely screwed in. All you need is some 1/4-20s. So what I did is 1/4-20 nylock, and this one just goes into that one. This 1/4-20 goes into there. If you want to, you can put lock washers. I didn't, because I actually had some Mishimoto style ones where they have the spiral cut, kind of like a flare, I would say. I don't know what to say with them, but they have little cuts. Actually, let's see, this one isn't a perfect example, but there's the ones that I used are like that. Haha, see this? Where it's got a pizza cut? So they grip as you bolt them in. So that's the best way to tell you of the ones that I used. And then again, the back screws are just a little longer. I thought about putting a back screw up, because then I could double nut it, meaning like have it go through here and then put a nylock on the end. I'm gonna leave it for now. I don't see this going anywhere. As you can see, it's nice and solid. It's still just going off of here, and it holds quite a bit of fluid, but not enough to put too much strain on that bracket. Not too worried at all. That bracket's thick enough, and it's definitely going through thick enough metal here with thick enough bolts. Again, nylock, washer, and another washer with big bolt, and rubber isolators on both sides, the same that you'd use for a shock. So that way, just like a radiator, it'll isolate some of the vibration going to the coolers. Okay, next thing to do is I put my adapters on here. As you can see, I'm gonna start seeing how I'm going to route my hoses. Once I've figured out how to route the hoses best here, then I will, of course, cut, put on my ends, and just splice it in. So for making the lines, the best way to do it, if you're gonna cut, I already have this here, but if you were gonna cut it, take some electrical tape, do 2 winds. You're going to cut right in the center of the electrical tape. I suggest a Dremel tool. It's easy enough to cut and go around it. By doing so, watch your fingers. It makes the cleanest cuts, and it's pretty easy. If you wanted to, you can also use a hacksaw if you don't have a Dremel tool. But just, yeah, either way. Let's say it's like this. This is the fresh end of that one. And we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna put the end on. All you do, some people will use motor oil to lubricate the threads, but you're gonna undo the back side of the fitting. Like that. Next thing you're going to do is slide said fitting and press it on. Screw it into it. As you're screwing it on, you're going to see the rubber get closer and closer to the very end of where the threads are. I'll show you what it looks like when it's fully seated. Right about here. Alright, let's show you. Maybe I won't show you. Okay, inside you'll see the threads to where this screws in. When you look, you want the rubber to be lined up with those threads, or pretty close to them. Alright, let's go ahead. Next thing you're going to do is by hand squeeze it, get it started, and start to thread it in. The reason why I say by hand, you do not want to cross thread this. If you don't have them, next thing you do, some hand wrenches. You can get these for cheap off of Amazon. These ones are the actual ones for these fittings, which is the Evil Energy fittings. Again, try and keep this one a little farther back, but keep that fitting locked in. Hold it. Sometimes you can get it with your chest, as one would say. Next is to always have to try and remember which way. So you can see, you can go here. Straight fittings are easy. I usually do them with a socket, but bent in fittings like this, you're holding it with your hand. If you feel that hose backing off, stop. It means that it didn't bite properly. Again, I like to check every little bit and just make sure this stays tight so you don't mar up your fitting. I mean, in this case, they're hidden, but when it's up top and you're doing fuel fittings, we'll say, for example, you don't want the marring to show. Just keep doing this and keep going. Again, double checking, making sure we're not getting loose on either one of our wrenches, and then get it as close as you can. Just paying attention not to nick your last, or on the last couple, you just don't want to nick the fitting. So I might go out a shot with this, probably, but I'm gonna try my best here. I'm gonna do this. Where are we here? Right there. Make sure I don't slide down onto the other fitting, or slide off and break my fingers. I only do that once. Okay. And almost where I want it, but I need to wiggle this one down. Right there. Oh, right about there. Oh, ay, 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 ay. Richard and his fun little words he makes. And let's finish it off by lining it up one more time, right about there. All right, take them off. Let's see how we did. Close enough for the girls I go out with. You can go ahead if you want to. Actually, there's a little bit of space. I might go one more turn, but that's what you're looking for. Get this as close as you can together. You want this basically kissing there, and try your best not to mar up the fitting. And then once we have that, when we go to do the other side, I'm actually going to, when I cut it, I'm going to put a piece of heat shrink on it so it doesn't unravel, and it'll look really nice. And just like that, I haven't tightened them yet. I don't like to tighten these up until the very end, obviously, but from here, you can see where these are going to line up. So this is the plan. I'm going to pull this as tight as I can, fold these up, pretty much clamp them on here or up here so they're aiming straight up. I'm going to cut the hoses and try and make it so as much fluid as I can does not come out of the line. If it does, whatever, life happens. One thing I can do is leave it aiming up and then fill that one to the brim as close as I can, and then I'll aim these up and then I'll fill those to the brim and put them together so there's only a tiny little air pocket in between, and doesn't mean I have to do too much with the tranny end of things. But that being said, it's best to pre-fill your cooler. If you have some air in the lines, don't worry, it's gonna cycle it through into the system. And if you're down a little bit, it's not a big deal, but if you're down like the whole cooler, well, that's more than a quart down, so you're gonna obviously want to refill that. But if you're gonna do a tranny flush after this, whatever. Nice. So as you can see, what I did is I did exactly what I said I was gonna do. I cut it with the cutoff wheel, like so. I then let a tiny bit of fluid come out, so that way it cycle out any metal shavings. I don't want any metal shavings in there. Clean the tip, and after I clean the tip, lubricated the tip because I had some tranny fluid there, and just lubricated it and squeezed on the N8 line. And then I already had on 1/2 inch heat shrink, and again heat shrinked it down so that way this isn't going to come undone. Then we have this guy, the EFI, and I'm going to aim it away from the other one. I'm going to slide it on. As you can see, it's barely loose right now, which will be perfect because I want to slide this on. And when I do, I'm going to tighten that down, and then for sure this is never going to come down. As you can see, I got it at least 1/2 inch. You want at least 1/2 inch. Once you do that, you can slide this on, crank her down, and then that should never come off. And again, we've adapted it to an N line. I'm gonna cut the next one. And again, after seeing that, well, tranny fluid's pretty dark. I'm gonna end up doing a triple flush anyway. As I said, just put your EFI clip on here. This one is a 17 to 19. You could go one size bigger. But anyways, 3/4 inch heat shrink, leaving this here. I've got this strapped, and now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just going to use this and simply cut the best I can. I'll usually do a bottom cut, then top cut, and then clean it up with a file, and so on and so forth, because you don't want any sharp edges either, because if it cuts through the line, well, bingo was his name-o. See, just like that. And if you want, you can even measure with a tape measure at this point, and then go ahead, and then you'll know where 1/2 inch is exactly, because you're gonna be squeezing on there. Make sure you lubricate it a bit, otherwise you're gonna hate life. There we go with the EFI clamps. As you can see, they'll go like that. Now, don't worry, this is gonna wrap up, yes, nicely, and these are gonna pop in over here. I haven't decided what I'm gonna do to secure these. I haven't thought about just having these so the metal lines up just like so, and then those secure onto something over here. We'll see. That way it's all balanced out. That's why I left it like that. Again, gonna strap this up nicely. If you notice, I had this black covering that I threw over these. I'm gonna take a look. I think I still have some black mesh I can wrap around these. And what that's gonna do is cause a friction layer so that way it doesn't burn through the lines from them touching each other with the braided. So I know I've got something in the cupboard, gonna wrap it up, make sure I keep it off anything metal. And then even right here, I have some foam. I might even throw some foam around these lines just so it doesn't slowly wear at that. But again, that's about how she's gonna look. One thing I noticed after cutting these lines is there was not much fluid in them. There's also not much fluid in that cooler. So no matter what, I'm gonna throw some fluid in this cooler because I wanna make sure. So I probably won't put fluid in the lines because any air in the lines, the tranny's gonna quickly pump out of it. So gonna go ahead, throw a little bit of, like I said, this in the lines, then just tighten up these two fittings. I'll wrap these and zip tie them. This is easy to do if you have that tranny funnel, or you could have filled it up before you mounted it, but for me, I did not. As you can see, I overfilled it a little bit on both sides. Oh, why would you do that? Well, now I've also lubricated the threads, makes it better for tightening the AN fittings, because you're supposed to lubricate the threads a little bit if you so wish when you're tightening them up. Keeps them cool, blah, 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 blah. Some people will use Loctite, you can do that. Some people will completely lose their poop if I say that, so just something to think about. Anyways, go ahead. As you can see, it's filled up gonna go ahead and start tightening our AN fittings. Don't go ham, they are aluminum, unless you have JIC fittings, which I highly doubt that you do, which are steel. Now, if for some reason you didn't want air bubbles, you could fill the lines down to where, well, down there. All you would do is put the funnel inside the lines and fill them up with your remaining fluid. Now, one reason why I'm reluctant to do that is because there's already air in one of the lines, and so I'd rather not overfill the tranny either, because overfilling and underfilling is both bad. So I'll leave it up to you. If you want to, go ahead and pour a little bit in the lines, but if you fill the cooler, I think that's way more than enough, because I can guarantee you, like, look at the amount of fluid that came out of that cooler. That's like nothing. Pretty fancy. I tighten these up after it comes here. Look at this. This particular Evil Energy kit came with 2 of these clamps, and I love these things. You can, again, I'm gonna put one more right here, and it keeps them separated from each other and keeps them running nice and smooth. One thing I will always say, take the screw right out when you're setting it, and then make sure you use a little bit of the Loctite, because these screws will back out, and the problem is if they do, the line will chafe against the metal and no good. So make sure you don't go ham ski with them, but you do get them nice and tight, and you do use Loctite so that way they don't back out. And keeping in mind it's aluminum. Like that. There's the cooler. Comes down, our EFIs are nice and tight, and yeah, again, doing this is not that expensive in relativity things with the Vette. The cooler I got on an Amazon special. They're regular 130 Canadian. Got it on for 79 bucks for Prime days. And then same with the lines. The lines were on for Prime days, and it comes with a whole kit. So again, and it's Evil Energy. That's about it. That's all I need to say to you. The only other thing I will tell you too is you can get this sticky, it's sticky on one side and felt on the other. And I will be putting some of that just in between the 2 coolers, just because you just don't want chafage. That's the best way to put it. Nobody likes chafage. And hear that? We want to make sure that there's something in between the 2. And once you do that, it's perfect. So just a little bit of something. Even if you have some double-sided sticky tape, if you cut it really skinny and stick it in there, with that pressure, it's never going to come off, especially if you use Gorilla. Just don't use big pieces, because then you're going to block the fins for cooling. So you want to use some really thin, like, cut it with an X-Acto and stick it in there. Anyways, that's all there is to this. Again, I don't think any of these lines are going to be touching. If I do, like right here, I might throw just a tiny piece of mesh, like what I used on the top there for my wiring. Just to make sure, again, no chafage. Last thing you want is new holes in your brand new lines. That's about it. All right. Thanks again for watching.